Do you feel like you've tried everything to heal your constipation? Do you feel like you've tried all the recommended solutions like fiber, magnesium, probiotics, or restricted diets without anything working? Does having to take laxatives regularly to poop worry you? Do you want a way to poop without laxatives, but you don't know how? Or have you spent hundreds or thousands of dollars on specialized labs, supplements, and holistic practitioners with no results to show for it? If so, then toxic mold exposure may be causing your constipation. Mold illness is slowly becoming more mainstream amongst functional and holistic doctors and practitioners, but it's still majorly overlooked and misunderstood as a potential cause of constipation. On today's episode, I'm sharing with you how mold can clog up your gut, slow your motility, and keep you from pooping. If you have IBS, constipation, bloating, or abdominal pain, then you don't want to miss this episode. And if you want to learn more about all the symptoms toxic mold exposure can cause, be sure to check out episode 220, 100 Symptoms of Toxic Mold Exposure. Listen into that episode to see how many of your symptoms line up with toxic mold exposure. Hey friend, welcome to the Better Belly Podcast. If you're currently trying endless supplements, doctor visits, and diet changes to heal your mystery symptoms, you are in the right place. We're here to solve the real root causes behind your gut, hormones, skin, sleep, and brain concerns. Literally anything and everything in your body. My name is Allison Jordan. I'm a functional medicine practitioner that has supported over 150 clients just like you to heal problems that no one has been able to fix. You don't need a perfect diet or a random supplement you found on Instagram to heal. You need a proven system that heals your whole body from the inside out. That's what I'm here to share with you, episode by episode. It's time to make health easy again. And just as a reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your own health practitioner before you make any changes to your health. All right, guys, so this is an episode dedicated to the connection between mold and one specific symptom, which is constipation. Now, just prior to this episode, in episode 220, I went over all the symptoms that I could possibly think of for things that mold and mycotoxins can create. I also talked about what the difference is between mold and mycotoxins and what mold toxicity and mold illness is and how you get it, how it gets into your body in the previous episode. So if you're interested in all things mold, I highly recommend you both check out the previous episode to this one, but also whether there's another episode out yet, but the future episodes coming right after this are also all about mold. So if today's episode really intrigues you, if you want to know more about how to find mold in your home or how to treat mold by literally hearing my 3-step mold treatment plan that I use with my clients, or by understanding more of the symptoms that can come with mold toxicity, definitely check out the previous episode to this one and the upcoming episodes for the rest of the month of August here. It's all about mold. But today I wanted to focus on constipation because constipation was the symptom that both I dealt with. It was my primary top line symptom when I thought I'm sick. I do not feel good. It was that I was so constipated and I could not eat food because my gut did not move. Every part of me hurt. I had increasing number of food sensitivities. I had insomnia. I was losing my hair. I lost my period, and then I lost my job. I left my job, but it's the main thing that I saw ruining my life, and I could not figure out. My doctors couldn't figure it out. No amount of diet change, doing the low FODMAP diet, doing pelvic floor therapy, doing mindfulness and exercise and yoga and prayer, none of that helped. Probiotics, fermented food, it did not matter. Fiber, water, all of that. And so I dedicated a lot of my business when I started Better Belly Therapies and the Better Belly podcast to primarily debunking constipation. It is by no means the only really bad symptom out there, but it is super misunderstood, and the information out there is super repetitive on how to fix it. Water, fiber, probiotics, I'm like so not wanting to even list all of them. They're not coming out of my mouth. But I'm going to actually list in this podcast episode in the show notes some different podcast episodes. If you are dealing with constipation and you're like, you literally clicked on this episode because you're like, this is my main problem and I'm trying to figure out what could possibly be causing it, do listen to this episode, but also do check out all the other resources I'm going to share with you that have highlighted. There are a lot of highlights for other constipation episodes in this podcast. But one thing that I haven't done a super deep dive in and that I really wanted to create just one episode, should be a pretty quick episode on, is how mold toxicity and constipation are connected. Because I was working with mold with clients for probably at least a year, if not maybe even 2 years, before I realized that there was a direct correlation, meaning I understood the scientific molecular, what was happening on a molecular level that could make mold actually cause constipation. And I wanted to share that with you guys here because it doesn't mean that every time someone walks in my door with constipation, I think they have mold illness, but it does mean that if I go through a lot of protocols with clients and they are still constipated or they're still, every time they go off their supplements, they can't poop on their own, and they've already done lots of parasite protocols and H. pylori, and they've worked on their stomach acid, I do want to seriously consider mold. And there are also other symptoms that are often going to be coming with their mold toxicity that can also give me signs that mold is one of their problems. Because if you're new to this podcast, you might not be familiar with the idea that you are not dealing with one problem. You are not, if you have constipation that's chronic, meaning you have to take supplements to poop or you have to eat a certain way or whatever, it's constantly coming back, it's daily, it's weekly, you have to work very hard to poop. If you're dealing with chronic constipation, then you're not just like, oh, you just need to go gluten-free, or oh, you just need to take a probiotic, or oh, you just need one protocol or one set of supplements. It's a multi-system problem. So it's usually multiple pathogens, multiple nutrient deficiency, multiple digestive problems, sometimes visceral restrictions. And after working with over 600 clients for 6 years, on not just constipation, but a whole slew of symptoms and autoimmune conditions and things that are going on with people's hormones and chronic pain and brain fog and fatigue, all of that. When you put the whole picture together of all the symptoms, not even a key one, that's what can give you the best likelihood of understanding what testing you need to do and what treatment you need to do that then the testing reveals. And I take my clients through this process in our Gut Healer system, which is inside of my program, the Better Belly Blueprint. But before we even just dive in, before you even decide, do I think I need to do any lab testing or anything like this, just listen to how mold can cause constipation. So one of the ways mold gets into the body, and this is actually mycotoxins, which mold is kind of like the plant of, like, if you had a flower, mold would be the flower. And then mycotoxins are a type of pollen, so you could say, that the mold produces and then shoots off. And it's that pollen that is toxic. And so this has nothing to do with like me saying you have a mold allergy, which is you being allergic to the plant. We are all sensitive to mycotoxins. Mycotoxins, they are toxins, just like we're all sensitive to arsenic or to lead. They're inherently toxic. Now, if you want to hear more on that, definitely check out the previous episode, and I dig a little bit more into that concept. But as you get exposed to mycotoxins, you breathe them in, whether you're mouth breathing or nasal breathing, they're getting exposed to mucus in your body and you end up swallowing them. Even if you don't have chronic postnasal drip or anything like that, there is a small amount of mucus that we're going to be swallowing from our nasal cavities. And if there are mycotoxins in the air that you're breathing, they're getting trapped in your mucosal barrier, which is in the nose, which that's its job, but then they're getting swallowed. And it's like these little seeds of mycotoxins that go down the esophagus, in the stomach, and through the digestive tract. It's super inflammatory. The body does not like it. But one thing, this is the thing that I did not learn about mold, or even specifically mycotoxins, until I'd been working with clients to get them cleaned of their body for about, again, 1 to 2 years, which is when the mycotoxins hit the gut lining, they can damage the myoenteric plexus. And this is the key word here, myoenteric plexus. Myo means the muscle, enteric means more like the gut nervous system. and plexus, which is the bundle of nerves. So it can damage your gut's nervous system and ability to move its muscle through the nerves, meaning that as it damages it, you're going to end up with slow motility. Now, it's so interesting. Probably 8 years ago when I started my personal healing journey, slow motility, or even the word motility, was not as common of a word. But if you have been in constipation for a while, you probably heard about motility. Doctors will say you have slow motility. They almost treat it like a diagnosis. But slow motility doesn't just happen randomly. It's caused by something. It's not, as far as we can tell in science, there's no research that says there's a genetic component or it just happens to happen. We can actually track things that cause motility, that speed it up or slow it down. And one of the things that can slow it down, which is not talked about in conventional medicine, is mycotoxins. When you have mycotoxin exposure for long enough, it'll damage the gut lining, creating leaky gut, and it can damage the myoenteric plexus, leading to slow motility. And then that slow motility can set you up for problems like candida overgrowth, SIBO, bloating, constipation. Now, the other thing that can happen is that mycotoxins are also super inflammatory. And so sometimes the body will also respond by having diarrhea. It's just trying to get it out of the body as fast as possible. So that can be a case where some of my clients who alternate between constipation and diarrhea, sometimes that's a component of what they're dealing with. Again, there are other things that can cause diarrhea. C. diff is one of the things. I will have clients who will alternate between constipation and diarrhea, sometimes with chronic low-grade C. diff, which is why I definitely recommend, if you are listening to this podcast and you're just trying to think what could possibly be creating your constipation, don't just listen to this episode and grab onto it and think, I found the golden chalice. This is the one thing I need to get better. That is likely not true. I've never had someone come in and all they needed to deal with was their mold. But if it's not one of the pieces they do deal with, it's kind of like a chair. If you want the chair to stand up, you don't just need one leg. You need 3 to 4 minimum for a chair to stand up. So you need to have all the pieces of the puzzle put back together because your body is super smart. It is an innately intelligent creature. It wants to heal itself. For you to have chronic constipation, you need to have so many variables going wrong for long enough at a severe enough rate that you are not able to create a natural, healthy urge and process that the body wants to do. So again, it's not just about the mold and mycotoxins. It's usually about multiple other things. And the other thing to consider is that mold and mycotoxins will also create a cascade of other problems like low stomach acid, zinc deficiency, candida overgrowth, and these can all impact your ability to poop or not poop as well. So you really want a comprehensive process, which is what I've created in my gut healer system. But this is just a short episode talking about the science behind why you can get constipation due to mold exposure. And if you want to know, well, if you're thinking, there's no way I have had mold exposure. I live in a clean home. I've never lived anywhere that smelled musty. I, don't see any black spots anywhere. Maybe you always turn on the fan when you shower. Whatever you're thinking of, still doesn't actually mean you haven't been exposed to mold. And literally the episode right after this one, I'm going to be bringing on an expert who is a mold inspection expert and runs the company Yes, We Inspect, and has brilliant resources online on his Instagram and a podcast that he runs called Mold Finders. And he's going to talk about the 5 signs of hidden mold. Mold is more often in our environments in our homes in a hidden way than an invisible way. By the time it's visible, it is really intense of a problem, right? But the way that our homes are built is designed to hide these things from us. And so nothing against the home builders. It's just we have things like fungicidal paint. Doesn't mean there's nothing on the other side of our drywall, but we definitely might not see it on the front. So definitely hang on. Don't write it off in your mind just because it's scary or overwhelming, or maybe it feels offensive. Even like, I don't live in a, grungy place, or I'm not a dirty person, or, I take care of my home, or any of those things. So do hang around. Mold can damage the myoenteric plexus. I've seen it happen for, I hadn't calculated before, likely dozens of clients, if not over 100 clients that mold has specifically been a part of a constipation case. And so If you've been trying to kick around with constipation for a long time and haven't been able to heal, don't worry, you can get better. I have never had a client come to me and not get better, which is amazing and a super big honor to say after I was the person who could not get over my constipation. And I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here on the Better Belly podcast. Please do subscribe. Go and listen to all of our other episodes. I have an entire vault that you can access. It's all of our episodes organized by category. Just go to betterbellytherapies.com/get-the-vault or click the link in the show notes. You can get that free podcast vault. It's just a link and you can literally save the link and we always update it so you can see all the episodes in each category. It's a great, great resource. And if you're like, no, Allison, I just want to heal now. I want the gut healer system. I want to be in your course and program, getting lifetime support, getting all the things that have helped my clients heal from constipation in the most holistic, fast, and effective way, so you're not on supplements and extreme diet restrictions the rest of your life, then you can go to betterbellytherapies.com/training. And I have a training to walk you through exactly what's inside of the Better Belly Blueprint, how it works, why it's working when other processes have not for you, and answer a lot of the frequently asked questions we get asked about the program. So I am so excited. I hope that this was a really succinct, understandable podcast episode. Just remember the phrase myoenteric plexus. You will now understand the science behind mold, damaging the gut, causing constipation, and you're one step closer to healing your constipation, just living a normal life again. I know it's maybe weird to say on a podcast, I poop every day and I don't have to think about it. I don't have to take special supplements. I don't have to do a special dance. I don't have to wake up early. I'm not a superhero. I'm not one of those like influencer health persons who's doing some crazy routine to keep myself healthy. I am an average person, a mom with a daughter and a husband in a home, living life and curing constipation, one person at a time. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here and I cannot wait for you to hear your next episode on this podcast. Hey friend, I hope you loved this episode. If you've been a fan for a while or newly loving this podcast, can you do me a favor? Drop into Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. When you leave a review, you do so much. You help me know you're listening, you can tell me what you're loving so I know what to make more of, and you help others by boosting this podcast so other people like you can find the podcast too. I mean, it's a win-win-win, right? So if you want a way to pay it forward, just go to Apple Podcasts or click the link in my show notes and leave a rating and review. And if you want some more free stuff, just head over to my free Facebook group, betterbellytherapies.com/Facebook, and you can get access to all of my free support for you, including some Facebook group exclusive stuff like my podcast episode vault, where you can search the Better Belly podcast by topic and find exactly what you need to expedite your healing. I cannot wait to see you in there. Catch you guys next week.